Welcome to week 5 of the Catechism of Hockey. I'm joined again by Alyssa Bormes, who is the author of our study book this summer, The Catechism of Hockey. This week is week 5. We're on E, Eternal Goals, and we're looking at chapters 21 through 23?
24. Yeah. It's a typo.
Oh.
I know, I found a typo.
Okay, so I may not have anything for chapter 24.
Oh no, because it says it right here, the effort. It gives you 4 chapters to go through in here.
Oh.
See? We'll do it.
All right. Good to know. All right, so then the next week is 25. I better fix that now. So I'll be reading 24.
Yeah.
Because I was a little behind. All righty then. Funny. All right, Alyssa, let's jump in. I'm sure. So, in case you're wondering why I look so bewildered and why maybe this looks different to you, Be Live TV, the wonderful software we use to let us go live together, has changed its interface. So this is our first time using it, and we assume we are live with you. I should probably, before we go too far into our discussion, I should just quickly log on to Facebook and see if we're there, Alyssa. Doesn't that make sense?
That makes sense.
There we are, live and chatting away.
Yay.
There we are. Yep, we're there. Okay. Great. So when people come in, hopefully I hope, wouldn't that be wonderful, Alyssa, if they fix the problem and we know who's here?
It says that we're going to be able to, I will be able to see their comments.
That's even more exciting.
We'll
all right,
see.
Just have to wait for, I didn't notice if anybody was in there. All right,
one more
peek. Okay. I'm going to make a comment, Alyssa, and we're going to see if it works.
Oh, this is awesome.
We're going to jump into it.
I feel like I'm on the cutting edge of technology.
It's really fun. I like technology.
You're amazing at it. Oh, look at that. Can you see this? And it comes from wine. It gives your name that you're writing for wine.
That is exciting. Oh, I'm so glad they fixed it. Now we just got to wait for our friends to show up. But we're going to start chatting because a lot of people, a lot of our wine friends, as I like to call them. Oh, hi, user. Oh, it's not showing.
It just says Facebook user.
Well, that's not fair. You'll have to tell us who you are because apparently it showed who I was, but maybe that's because it's my page.
It could be.
I thought they had it fixed. I was so happy, but I'm glad that you're here with us. And we're going to jump in now to our conversation on 21 through 24 on the Catechism of Hockey as we move through. And Alyssa, I got lots of messages saying they want the way conversation with you.
The what conversation?
The way, I don't know, what's the fancy word for it? The way of St. James, the thing you walked, the thing we're going to talk about.
Camino. We have to do that. We'll do that the week after or something.
Yes, I'll get an email to you. I think there's a week that I can't. But anyway, I just want everyone to know. The Camino, that's the word. The Camino talk is coming. And I guess there's a little longer break between when we finish and reading between the signs starts. So we'll have plenty of time for it. But I wanted you to know that people were very interested in telling me, do not let her off the hook.
Oh, I want to do it. And then I was chatting with Kelly Walquist either last night or the night before, I forget. And I mentioned to her that we were doing it. And she was all in too. So I'm super excited that we can do that. It was an unbelievable time.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about it. Yes, the Camino. Very cool. All right, but now we're talking about hockey.
Yes.
And just so much feedback, Alyssa, too, that you should know how many people women have just loved this book. Someone last night was sharing with me at our Bible study at our church that she shared it with a friend who works as a school nurse in a Catholic school, high school, and she's bought the book to put out for the kids who are waiting.
Great.
For, their turn with the school nurse. I'm like, that's
great idea.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, that's really cool. And you never know, I think back the moments that have been crystallized in your mind and weird moments in your life where something pivotal happened when you weren't expecting it. And so maybe someone just picking that up, waiting in the nurse's office board, has a moment where they understand something that they never understood before.
So cool.
Yeah, that's really
I know I understand a whole lot more than I did before.
Yeah.
It's even better the second time through.
Oh, how nice.
There's very few books, I have to say. There's very few books that I can pick up and go back through and be just as excited as I was the second time. And I'm not just saying that because you're sitting there with me.
Right. Well, you don't want me to just shut down my computer. That's the thing. No.
It's been nice talking to you, Allison.
You know what book I'm reading? I think The Life of Christ. I'm reading it concurrently with this by Fulton Sheen. And I will say that anything Fulton Sheen has written, you can read 1,000 times. Amen. So this twice, his stuff 1,000 times. And then the Bible just innumerable times.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day. So let's look at Cal and Sarah. Tell us about Cal and Sarah. These two, now this last name sounds kind of familiar. Should I know these people?
For good reason, yeah. So I've been working with Dale Ahlquist since 2008. And I had written this book and I was giving him the chapters one after another. And I think I did the whole second draft. And he said, I'm so sorry. I know you think you're done and now we just have to edit, but you're not done. I said, well, what are you talking about? And he said, you need to meet Cal and Sarah. Cal is Dale's brother, Dale Ahlquist's brother. And he owns a pizza place called Cal's Pizza Factory. It's in St. Paul, a suburb of St. Paul. And by the way, if anyone hasn't been or you're going to be here, it's amazing. And the roasted potatoes, I can't say enough about those. They're deep fried, roasted something. They call it broasted. And then you put them in sour cream. Forget about it. And then I had Cal's special pizza, which included sauerkraut on it. Sauerkraut on the pizza. It was fantastic.
Was it?
Yes. And so anyway, we joke that we should make a bookmark that you could tear off the back. That would be a little coupon to Cal.
I love that.
But I bet if you showed up and brought your book, Cal would probably give you a deal on a pizza. Wait, can't do that. Okay, there. Someone would give you a deal on a pizza if you took it to Cal's Pizza Factory. So sure enough, I said to Dale, all right, I'll go talk to Cal. And he just said, I'm just going to let you go talk to Cal. And so I went and interviewed him. And the thing about talking to him, he has such a humility. I kept thinking, I'm sitting here speaking to a mystic, that he had such a humility about himself that it was outrageously beautiful. And I couldn't write fast enough. And he never paused for me to make sure I was getting it all down. I did. I should have had a recorder. But I wrote as fast and furiously as I could. And so he's telling me the story of his daughter and trying to cure her of her desire to be a goalie in hockey. And I point out in here that there really wasn't girls hockey at the time. It was called ringette. And it looked like it might be hockey, but it wasn't hockey. And his daughter wanted to play hockey. And so he's going to cure her by buying 1 hour of ice time at the Bloomington Ice Garden, which is where the 1980 Olympic team first practiced, by the way.
Oh, neat.
And, yeah, so cool. Miracle on Ice. Cool. And so I lay out the story, and this really happened. And to sit and listen to Cal, it was so beautiful. And he said he, at the beginning, he's just kind of taking easy shots at her, but she's, blocking the shots. And he said by the end, he keeps intensifying the shots because she is blocking everything. And by the end, he's exhausted and he's given her the hardest shots he can. He's been a skater forever. And he's certain that that he'll cure her. And by the end of the hour, he was absolutely certain, because he was exhausted, and he just thought for sure she's going to be super exhausted, and who wants to get hit by pucks? And so he really did ask her, now how do you like hockey? And she said, I love hockey, right? And so then I got to talk to Sarah. I believe I don't think I've ever actually met her, or did I meet her once now? I can't remember. But we talked by phone, and the same thing with her was this deep underlying part of a dream, working with your father or working with your daughter, whichever person I was talking to, and then this deep faith in both of them, and that all the glory goes to God.
Wow.
And even Sarah, when she went to play for, is it Princeton? Yeah, Princeton. That when her second year, when she was taken out of the net, that it was a lesson in humility, but in her voice was all gift. Wow. And then, just as an added thing that wasn't at the time of publishing this, she happened to marry a hockey player whose dad was on the 1980 Olympic team. How crazy is that?
That's so cool.
That's really cool. They gave away pucks at their wedding. I didn't go, but Dale gave me a puck. Isn't that neat? Yeah.
I hope they were all signed by her father-in-law.
Oh, I don't remember. I'll have to look at it. I don't think they were. But how cool that, and then I sent a book to him as well. So it was very cool. And
oh, that's very neat.
Yeah. So here, the whole thing was that she was confirmed in her decision, right? That she was convicted, and that she was going to stand in the goal and take all the shots that could come at her. And because her love of hockey was so intense, that she would guard the goal, the hardest part, right? And so brutal that these shots are coming at you, and that so much weighs on you. And I when I heard the story, I was like, well, that is confirmation, isn't it? And
yeah,
because that's what the thing Cal wanted was, if you want to be a goalie, then you have to get in the goal and take the shots. Because if you can't take the shots, we're not going to be a goalie.
Right.
And so it was beautiful to hear it. And my favorite quote from them is Cal telling me that Sarah had an uncanny ability to be fearless. When he said that, I'm crying practically. He's talking about hockey, and I'm crying, and not exactly, but I'm choked up. And I think that how beautiful this is, the spiritual life too. But that was everything he said and everything she said. You understood that they're not just speaking about hockey; they're speaking about life.
Amen.
And you understand that God is the God.
Amen. Hi, Linda and Loretta. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hey.
I had that underlined as well. She had an uncanny ability to be fearless. And I thought about in our faith life, like we have to be fearless. And the more society looks down upon our faith and the harder it becomes, the more fearless, like we have to live out loud. I remember when I was getting ready to go to China to adopt my daughter, somebody kindly said to me, well, you probably shouldn't wear that crucifix over there.
Right.
They're like, they're communists. They're not really friendly to Catholics. You probably don't want to stand out as a Catholic. And I said, I'm going to take my chances. Because I just thought, like, this is my little teeny chance. When someone says, would you deny Christ? Would I? I was like, scared, but yet I knew I had to wear this over that, and it had been touched on 1,000 relics. I needed that little sacramental reminder that I was with the cloud of witnesses, like the saints were coming with me, because that was the scariest thing I ever did. But I was just thinking about, I hope that I too have an uncanny ability to be fearless in my faith at all times. It's just,
I think sometimes that it doesn't seem like it's fear when we don't want to say the truth. It just seems like, well, I'm just going to sort of make peace, or try not to ruffle feathers, and there's prudence, of course, that has to be involved. Sometimes it's not the day to say the whole Catholic teaching out loud. I don't need to win the argument today. Right. I need the Holy Spirit to help me as well. But I actually think of my own life, and I think how many times I have been trapped in fear, and not just about speaking about my faith, but then using my talents the way God has given them to me. Or sometimes just every now and then, believe it or not, okay, fun fact about Alyssa Bormes. When I was in kindergarten, my report card came home. My last report card of kindergarten came home, and it said on there that I was shy. And I didn't know what it meant, but my brothers were happy to tell me, and then they were happy to tease me about it. And so I made a commitment at 5 to not be shy anymore. And it worked out, except for that every now and then it'll overcome me. Every now and then I'll be silent in a room. It doesn't happen often. But that in that moment when that fear hits, that I have to push myself and be fearless in all sorts of things. But I love this in the faith, to be fearless in the faith. I think when I teach my 9th and 10th graders, man, they don't, they don't just give you the softball questions every day.
I can't even imagine.
They're bringing big ones, and to be fearless in answering them, and to find a manner in which to speak to them. But again, right back to the catechism of hockey, is that sometimes the way to speak to them is in analogy. And if the teaching is difficult to come out of your mouth, maybe the analogy, especially using sports, because they're the vernacular and sports are a safe thing to talk about. And when we can use sports to explain it, and then say, well, that's kind of how it is in the Catholic Church as well. It can help us be fearless.
Well, I think that you have an uncanny ability to see that analogy so clearly. Just when I think there's no way you can come up with something new and another analogy, I turn the page and go, oh no, I was wrong.
That's good. Well,
for somebody who doesn't know the game of hockey very well,
I really don't
know hockey very well.
Yeah, I don't know hockey that well. So just another fun fact, right? Take that one to the bank. I do not know much about hockey. I really don't know much about any sport. I just know enough to enjoy it. Right. But the minutia, I often don't know. So. Yeah. I'm in Boston, hockey town. I watched hockey since I was a little kid, and I will still watch it. And the puck moves so fast, and I don't have the best attention span. And my husband will be like play by play in my ear. I'm like, how did you see that? Yeah. He's learning to expect the play, though. That's the thing. It's catechesis, right?
He's very well catechized, and he's been trying to catechize me for years.
Yeah.
And I also liked on page 137, near the bottom, it says, if we don't flinch when it comes to following the church and her teachings, it is likely that our children won't either.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard lesson, because children don't pick up on what we say. They pick up on what we do.
Right there. Same thing. Actually, when I read it again, I thought, oh, that's a good line. Because you forget what you write.
Yes, you do.
And so it's true that I think as a teacher, if I flinch and I go, yeah, that's a hard teaching, or I'm all in for 99% of it, but then I back off on the 1%, I have taught my kids that if you want to back off someplace, go ahead. And that's the thing. I think of a friend who her annulment didn't come through, but she wanted to date. And she was telling me about this, and I said, you're a catechist. Like, but yeah, I know, but this whole thing with the annulment and I said, but you have to remember what you're teaching your children then. Go all in on everything except for the church's teaching on marriage and annulments. And then this is what happened in 1968 with Humanae Vitae, is if I can dissent on the teaching of contraception, well, then why can't I dissent on another teaching and another one and another one and another one? And so if we don't flinch, even when the hard questions come, because they will. I mean, I can just tell you, the kids are wanting to know. And so you can't flinch. You can admit that you have failed, but you can't flinch. And you have to have an uncanny ability to be fearless. And it's okay that I tell my kids all the time that I had a failing. I'll even tell them, like, I just went through 5 minutes of lack of charity, like you can't believe. Probably I kept it in the head, or maybe sometimes I have imprudence of something, and like I'll admit things if they help me in teaching. I don't just tell them everything. But if it helps me in teaching, I'll let them know. I just failed in lack of charity when I was waiting in line for whatever. I was at the store or something. And anyway, we need to not flinch, and it teaches them not to flinch.
I have to say that while you were speaking, I was thinking about a conversation I just had with a pastor, my old pastor, who's also the vocations director. And I said to him, we were talking about the trouble filling our seminary, and I'm like, why do you think that is? And which seminary? I'm like, we had just met Father Alar, who is a Marian father, and they're busting at the seams.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? He said the orders that are Orthodox, who do not flinch, I'm just going to get that word in there, they are busting. That's where the young men want to be, because they know where they stand and they know what they're going to get. And I think that we worry that our children don't want the truth, and they don't want,
they're dying for it,
that hard line. But clearly we're wrong, because the seminaries, the ones that are bringing in the young men, are the ones that aren't flinching.
Well, we might as well talk about Fulton Sheen again, right? Actually, this September 20-something is his 100th anniversary of his ordination to the priesthood. And I was just talking with doctor somebody whose name, it just escapes me in this moment. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He works with Fulton Sheen stuff, cause, all that business. And I was calling him because I wanted a particular quotation of Fulton Sheen's. I wanted to know exactly what it was, and I need the footnote. But Fulton Sheen is talking about teenagers all want a reason to die. What? And when he said it, I thought, what, is he nuts? He's gone too far this time. The crazy man's gone too far. And then he talked about how this is why kids can give themselves so easily to sports, because it asks everything. It asks everything of you. And that we want to go all in. We want to leave everything on the field, on the ice, on the court. And in essence, we die to it.
Wow.
That we're great, good for you in sports and everything. That's awesome. And now elevate that. And that kids really want the truth. I am here telling you, the kids want the truth. I teach it every day to them, and they want to know. We can't flinch. We cannot flinch. And anyway, there you go. Uncanny ability to be fearless, and that we can't flinch.
Somebody's posted here, hashtag don't flinch.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I can see that.
Yeah, I'm having a really good time. I finally figured out all the little, like, I can see how many people are here finally. I know how to get your name there finally. I'm getting it. I'm getting there. But I love that. Hashtag don't flinch. And someone said, Father Alar, love him. He's the real deal. He really is the real deal. He's a good man. Good man. All right, so let's move on to chapter 22, the heart. This story, my goodness. I'm thinking that hockey coaches and basketball coaches should just stay out of cars. Just saying.
Yeah, no kidding. All right.
Just stay out of cars.
Stay out of cars.
So tell us about Don Meyer.
Well, I was actually introduced to him by my sister-in-law. I was telling her about this book, and she goes, "You need to meet Don Meyer."
Oh, wow.
And she pulled up a video when he was receiving the Jimmy V Award from ESPN, and he gives a great speech, but in essence, like, you don't know who I am, because no one knew who he was. But here, he's quietly the winningest coach in NCAA basketball history.
Wow.
And he coached a different school, a couple different schools, and eventually ended up in my hometown of Aberdeen, South Dakota, at the Northern State University, and coached the Wolves. So when he was with them, they were about to win. He was 12 games shy of being the winningest NCAA basketball coach. I think I said football, but I meant basketball coach. And then they were going to a retreat. School had just started, or it was going to start the next couple of days. And so he took his basketball players on a retreat of just kind of getting to know each other, the older guys meeting younger guys and so on. And they drove together, and he drove separately and fell asleep at the wheel and got hit by a semi. And so then they fly him down to Sioux Falls because he needs emergency surgery. They discover he has cancer. And it's a really slow growing cancer. And so he probably would have felt healthy for a really long time. But because of this accident, wow, they discovered this slow growing cancer. And then, as I wrote, that he wrote down as soon as he woke up, but he couldn't speak yet. I think he still had the breathing tube or something. And wrote, "When can I coach?" And in the hospital, his former players and all, like, spouses and everybody, they had a schedule where players from all over the country were coming to spend time with him on a big schedule.
Wow.
Because he was in the hospital for months. It was amazing. Anyway, so he ends up coaching again, and he has a thing that he'll put someone on the end of the bench. A special guest always gets to sit at the end of the bench. So the night when they expected him to break the record, at the end of the bench is the semi-driver and the semi-driver's wife.
That's amazing.
And he has this sense of who God is, what your life is about, because it's not about basketball, it's not about football, it's not about baseball, it's not about hockey, it's about God, and it's about service and love and gratitude. And he's so amazing. I can just tell you, there's a book that was written about him called How Lucky You Can Be. Not How Lucky Can I Be, How Lucky You Can Be. It's the story of Don Meyer. It's totally worth reading. And he had this weird way about him, right? We talked about John Gallardi before, having his strange way of winning with no. Well, Don Meyer's way of winning was to make the team afraid of him, right? He wanted them afraid of him so they wouldn't be distracted by anything else. They were already too afraid of him. And I love this story when they talk about him. He came in and he just made them start running. And they just had to start running these wind sprints, kind of like Herbie's that we talked about before, but not on skates, but wind sprints, and just yelling at them the whole time saying, who do you think you are? And that wow, they have to live beyond themselves. And then at the end, he talks about how one of you skipped class. And that reflects poorly on the basketball team. And you are representative of the team, of the school. You have to hold each other in what you're doing, and nobody skips class. Oh, what? Are you kidding me? No, that's not. I mean, that's crazy eights, right? We never hear that about athletes. And but he just had this idea. And I think one of the things he says is, I don't have it written down, but something about that you have to know how to serve. Oh, how beautiful. And then that his suffering I mean, he was in the hospital for ages. I was in the hospital a year and a half ago for 4 days, and all I could do eventually was complain about the bed and the stupid pillows. And the bed was so uncomfortable. Oh. I begged to go home. To be there for months, and what he had to go through, and the therapy he had to go through, and lose a leg, and have the slow-growing cancer, and.
It's crazy.
And he was there coaching them in a wheelchair. He finally could stand, but he gave everything, and he taught these men how to be men. And this is, if we go back to what Fulton Sheen was saying, is everybody wants something they can die for. And so he showed them how to die for basketball, but really he showed them how to die to self.
Yeah.
For life. And that they all became better men because of it. And so, anyway, putting your heart into it. I love this story. I completely forgot about the story in this chapter about Jenna. This is I was having coffee with this woman one day, and she tells me a story about her daughter. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm stealing that story. It really is true about this girl, Jenna, who had the consolation game, the third place game or whatever it was for her hockey team. And the coach said, well, you can just go to mass twice next week. God will understand. And she said, no, I think God will understand. I'm choosing hockey over him. Out of the mouths of babes, right?
Yeah, I made that this week's meme because I'm like, this is so powerful that this has to be, like, we have to share that part of the book. So that was, I actually picked that quote from this book.
Yeah. I forgot that it was in there again, and how powerful it was. And there's parents who didn't flinch, and their daughter didn't flinch. She didn't go, well, let me go see what I can ask my parents, Mom, Dad, and begging them, because she knew her parents weren't going to flinch, which gave her the ability to not flinch in the face of pressure. And then at the end, the coach saying, I learned something from you.
Yeah.
How beautiful.
I remember back in the day when Sundays were sacred, and nothing happened on Sundays until after 12 o'clock.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Like, well, first it was nothing happened at all on Sundays, and then it was nothing till after 12 o'clock. Right. And now
anything goes.
Anything goes.
Yeah.
I just want to share this quote. I believe suffering strengthens us. It is a confirmation of God's love for us, especially if we can help somebody else or ourselves in the process. That's so
true.
It's redemptive, like when you're able to use your suffering to help other people, which is, the teachings of our church is that it becomes redemptive. Like it's used for a greater good, right?
Yes.
Used for something beyond ourselves, and that's beautiful.
It is beautiful. My dear friend, Bishop Paul Dudley of happy memory, who heard my first adult confession, when he was dying, I was able to visit him twice while he was dying.
Wow.
And he told me, he actually told me who in particular the suffering was for. I can't say that, but that I fell over because I thought, if you're offering your suffering for anybody, you ought to offer it for yourself to get better. But that wasn't it,
Right.
I mean, it's an unbelievable. It was the most selfless thing I had ever heard. I just can't explain how selfless it was. And then he taught me that if you should always have an intention in your back pocket. So if you stub your toe or something, you should just have that intention to say, oh, that was for whatever it was, for my students. And then, but if you're going to go into a time of big suffering, then you should prayerfully decide what you will offer the suffering for. And what I found was so amazing is after that, of course, I've had a million surgeries and a ton of shoulder ones. And right after that, a year or so after it, I had a shoulder surgery. And the problem of praying when you are sick or highly medicated is you can't make full thoughts, but you can say, like, what I offered this particular surgery for was for my priests and for Thanksgiving for them. And so I would just say, as the wave of pain came or something, or sadness came or whatever it was, I say, this is for my priest. And that actually kept me from going back into a sadness, because narcotics actually make me very sad. And so I'm on a host of narcotics after the surgery, but that I could stay out, except for maybe a few hours. I stayed out of the big sadness because I kept offering the pain. And yeah, and this book is, I think, when spoiler alert, when we get to the end, this is the book of 4 shoulder surgeries. There's actually been 5, but anyway, it's a book of 4 shoulder surgeries. I thought of it right before the first one. I wrote it during the second and third, and it got edited during the 4th. So
wow.
Someone has written something about Bishop Dudley.
Yes. God bless Bishop Dudley. I am so blessed each day as I walk into my office that it is his beautiful face that welcomes me.
He's amazing. If he, obviously, one day, hopefully, we all know him, and we get to hang out with him in heaven, God willing.
Yeah, God willing. He baptized me. I don't know who that is.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty cool. And you tell us who it was who got baptized by him. And Saint Faustina, who I absolutely adore, offered her suffering for others constantly. I mean, isn't that kind of a trademark of our saints?
Yeah.
That's part of that heroic virtue, is that they look at their sufferings as a way of glorifying God, of helping others. And while I'll never be a saint.
No, you will.
No. I've got the goal. I'm working towards it.
Yeah, we're working toward it. Well, that is the whole thing about this chapter, the heart, is of suffering, and that it is redemptive, and that we ask our children to suffer all the time in sports. And it is now time to teach them, to really teach them how to suffer, and not to add on extra suffering, but how to use their suffering, the suffering of studying. I always tell my kids at school, I know that being a student is hard work. I know it is.
Yeah.
And so we're going to offer this, that we're going to offer this suffering, and we're going to do it to the best of our ability. But of course, it's hard work. And but they're so ready to suffer in sports, and now we need to ask them to suffer, or teach them how suffering works. Lori, it's Lori Henkel.
Yes.
Did he baptize you, Lori? That's fantastic. Anyway,
that's so cool. And I do think that's a great point. Like, we talk about how we want to shelter our children and not let them suffer, but yet when it comes to sports, we're like, no pain, no gain.
Yeah. And put your heart into it, that the heart is an act of the will, and that they need to put their heart in life. They need to put their heart in life. They need to put their heart in the family. The whole thing. Oh, it was Kelly who said she was blessed with the portrait of Bishop Dudley at her work, because she's at the seminary. That is so cool. Yeah, I love him.
I thought some of these comments were very, very Kelly. I thought we had you here with us. I'm glad that you're here with us tonight, Kelly. Always happy when we gotta get you back on.
Perfect.
Share some of your awesome insights. So on page 146, it's just kind of wrapping up what you just said, Alyssa. In hockey, families will sacrifice physically, spiritually, and financially.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to bring that into our spiritual life.
Yeah.
And teach that suffering is, like it is in sports, is good.
It's for the good.
It's for the good. That's
it's for the good. And that we'll suffer to the point of complete exhaustion, tedium. I can't take it a minute more, and we'll do more in hockey or basketball or piano or whatever. And that's the faith. I can't take a minute more. Okay, but go ahead and do it anyway. Right?
I love your quote. Suffering doesn't break the soul, but elevates it.
Yes, exactly.
You wordsmith, you. I love that. Oh, and I also loved, I've been streaming underneath this every once in a while, always have an intention in your back pocket. Like, that really is like the quintessential Christian response, right? To pain, to suffering. is to be able to offer it. And I love that even the stubbing your toe part, like just to always have somebody you're praying for, I think is just a beautiful thought. I just never had it before.
When I just recently, I had the, I had this ankle arch heel surgery. And so when they were taking the staples out, they kind of stung a little bit, no big deal. But there are 3 on the heel, on the back of the heel. And she took the first one out. I thought I was going out of my mind. It hurt so much. And so I thought, what's your intention? Quick, there's 2 more. You better have an intention ready. And so I prayed through those other 2.
Kelly says we're first stringers.
Oh.
I'll take that compliment.
I'm spiritually a first stringer. I don't think we really want me to put on the skates, if you know what I'm saying.
We get the first line. Yes. We wear them out for the rest of them. All right, so on to chapter 23rd. Sorry, the 23rd. No, how about 23, Alyssa?
Yes.
I have to say that I spent this entire chapter with my mouth agape.
Oh.
I was like, I never thought of that. I never thought of that. I never thought about, the Stanley Cup and only being for an elite group of men. So talk a little bit about this chapter and the analogy you created with the Stanley Cup.
Well, when I thought of the Catechism of Hockey, I would talk to different people about it. And then someone would always come up to me and say, well, what are you going to do with the Zamboni? Which, by the way, is coming. Just stay tuned. And that's next week. And what are you going to do with the Stanley Cup? What are you going to do with this? So the Stanley Cup, I was thinking, I don't know, what am I going to do with the Stanley Cup? But of course, you've got to mention it. And I realized it's the ultimate reward. And so I love to ask people, what is the ultimate reward in hockey? And I never have anyone disagree with me. They all agree that it's the Stanley Cup. I mean, the gold medal is awesome, but the Stanley Cup is better, right? And although the 1980 gold medal, I don't know what's better than that. But the Stanley Cup is the ultimate reward and or ultimate award. And so I am stunned when you're in a group of a whole bunch of adults and nobody disagrees. It's so rare that you can be in a room where everybody agrees on a particular point.
Yeah.
There's not even other answers that are floating around. Yeah, okay, I see your point. No, it's the Stanley Cup. And so I love this is one of my favorite things to talk to parents about is, okay, so finally we all agree that the Stanley Cup is the ultimate reward and there's no dissenting voices, right? I make the statement, it is the ultimate reward. And it's not available to your daughters. And the gasp, right? Because they never thought of that. We don't even think of it. What's the ultimate reward in football? Super Bowl. What's the ultimate reward in baseball? The World Series. How many women have won any of these? None. But I'm telling you, when the Minnesota Twins in 87 and 91 won the World Series, I said, we won. We won. I just watched the Twins today lose. They did win last night, a really good one. But anyway, I watched the Twins lose today. And so we lost or we won.
Yep.
And I probably won't even ever walk on the Twins field. I'll never, for sure. I'd walk on the Twins field before I would ever step on the ice for the Minnesota Wild or the Gophers. I'll never get on that ice because you know what'll happen? I'll fall, just like Bambi, me and Bambi. Only it won't be so cute. I'm not as cute as Bambi. I'm an old lady, and it'll be, we got to call an ambulance.
Oh, I think you're just as cute as Bambi.
Well, thank you. Aren't you sweet? And so, but I'll never do anything to be a part of the team. I'll never shoot a puck. I'll never throw a baseball. I'm not going to do it. No one's going to want me to do it. Except for when we win, we win. And that is the thing, is that they don't take this elite group of men It is not every man. Well, how come only men can do it? Men get everything. No, not every man can do this. Not every man is on the Stanley Cup winning team. There's only a few. There's probably 20 or whatever. I don't know what the amount is each year. But there's only a few.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not available to our daughters, but it's not available to our sons who have Down syndrome. It's not available to our sons who are only 5 feet tall. It's not available to our son who has a blind eye or something, right? It's not available. And so it's an elite group of men who have spent their lives honing a physical talent. They're extremely disciplined, and they hone this talent over a lifetime.
Amen.
And a few of those men win.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get the Stanley Cup for a 24-hour period of time, which is stinking cool. And I want to go to a parade sometime with the Stanley Cup or a picnic or whatever you're doing with the Stanley Cup. Pick me. I want to be there. I just want to be there. I want to touch the Stanley Cup. I think it'd be cool. I've never had the opportunity yet, but call me if you know of, if your nephew wins a Stanley Cup, let me in. And but you have to give it back. Each player gets the cup for 24 hours, but you have to give it back. And if you loved it so much you want to do it again, just win the cup again. Super easy. I'm sure it is. And that the ultimate reward in the church is the eternal crown of glory. And once it's given, it's not taken away. I would love to go to a parade where, I don't know, let's say one of my students wins the Stanley Cup. Cool. I want to be there. Invite the old lady, you know what I'm saying? And or bring it to my nursing home or whatever. I want to touch the stupid Stanley Cup. Come on now. Even if my whole life goes by and I've never been able to be at a thing with the Stanley Cup where I could touch the Stanley Cup, okay. But I really, really, really want to be there when my students are given the eternal crown of glory. I don't want to miss it. I want to be there. I want to be there when Jesus says, well done, my good and faithful servant. I want to be there. I don't know that I was any part of it. Maybe just the tiniest thing. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
They're my only chance in is if I don't flinch in teaching my kids, that's my chance in. And I want to be there, and they'll never be taken away. And it's available to our sons and our daughters, and our sons with Down syndrome, our daughters who are deaf, our my friend's child who's probably 20 now, who can't use his arms, who has a liquid diet and has the sort of mentality of a 1-year-old, except for that he is happy. He's so happy and he laughs. His mom says he prays in laughter. How cool is that?
That is very cool.
Yeah, isn't that cool? And I want to be there. And that crown is super available to those kids. It's super available to them because they've come as these suffering souls. And they've gone all in. I mean, this child who's 20 and his laughter, he's been evangelist to me many, many, many times. His laughter in the midst. And he has a song. He sings, oh, something like that. And except for when he got older, it lowered an octave and a half or something. Anyway, but he has a song and he has laughter. That's pretty much it.
That's beautiful.
And he will receive the eternal crown of glory, right? How cool is that? I don't want to miss it. And we put our lives into sports. Everything for trophies you have to dust. And they're passing. I used to show horses when I was a kid, and I actually owned 2 world champions.
Wow.
And the reason of that was really because my brother was, he got them for me. He trains horses, and I had a jillion trophies, and I had them out, and ribbons. And so first I got rid of all the ribbons but 2. And then I got rid of all the trophies, but maybe, I don't know, let's say 20. And then I got rid of all the trophies, but 2. And then those are gone. And those ribbons are gone. They're all gone. Because they don't mean anything anymore.
Every week, Alyssa, you get more and more interesting. Just just when I think we know everything.
Oh, there's a lot. Oh, yeah. There's a lot. I was just talking with someone the other day, and someone was saying, well, there's not much to know about me. I'm like, oh, there's a lot.
I love that. You know, like, this is one of the reasons I love small group so much. And this is our small group, right? Our friends here tonight, you and I, all of us together, is that sharing of our story. Like, I love storytelling. I love that we have this story that the Lord gives us. Our lives are our story, and how we glorify him and how we didn't glorify him and how he welcomes us back and forgives us. But everyone has such an interesting story, and those little details, like, no big deal. I just used to show some horses and they were award winners. Like, no big deal. Yeah. That's so cool.
In a certain sense, though, it is no big deal, right? They were just trophies my mom had to dust. And in the end, it really is no big deal. I only want one thing now, and it's the eternal crown of glory. And everything else is fluff.
And I love how the Lord used that experience to show you. I think I've shared before that one year I won Volunteer of the Year for our school.
Cool.
And it should have been cool. But when I received the award, I was devastated, because to me it represented all the time away from my family that they had sacrificed, because I had said yes to clearly way too many things.
Right.
And I was going to throw it away. I was so devastated by it. But my spiritual director's like, no, keep it in a drawer. And the next time you want to overextend yourself, open that drawer and look at it and learn to say yes to the things God wants you to say yes to. But without the experiences where we can look back and go, oh, that wasn't what I wanted. Sometimes it's harder for us to see what we do want or what God wants for us. So I love how you connected that. I think that's beautiful. So
well, I would say that volunteer award, if it came with a sash, who could say no to that? You know what I mean?
Well, I have to be honest, I have kind of the vision of what the eternal crown of glory looks for me. It's kind of bedazzled. It doesn't have to be real gems, just bedazzled. And I'd like a little sash and a really cute dress, like a prom dress. Like in 1980, when I went to the prom, I had one of those really poofy pink, I'll have to find a picture. I don't really want much eternal glory, but dressed like a prom queen with a sash, I'm good.
Yeah, I probably want something just a hair less than Mary's. And speaking of it, the Assumption today, how fantastic, or well, tomorrow. It's the eve, it's the vigil. Yeah, fantastic. So just a little less than Mary will be fine with me.
So here's my favorite Assumption, Joe. Oh, first I want to read, Alyssa, you are a huge faithful influence for your children.
Thank you.
Alyssa, so Mary was having dinner one night with Jesus and Joseph.
Yes.
And she says to them, guys, when I die, I'm going to heaven, body and soul. To which Joseph looks at her, rolls her eyes, and says, Mary, that's an awfully big assumption.
I dig it.
Okay, that's my favorite horrible assumption joke. Moving on.
Yes.
So we have one more chapter to look at.
Yes.
The effort.
Yes.
Chapter 24.
Well, here I have a quote: the greats show up. And that the effort, there's years of practice, of tedium, of drilling, and it's necessary for hockey, for baseball, for piano, and for faith. And it's a commitment to the community. And then the other thing, it's not feelings, it's an act of the will. I think, is it this chapter that I talk about the strangeness in catechesis, where we pull our kids out after second grade? Yeah. And then, so they have their sacrament year where they have confession and communion.
Yes,
we pull them out and we bring them back for confirmation. And we just think, well, what's the big deal? They just teach the same thing over and over and over. Well, of course we do.
Yeah.
That's what we do in basketball over and over and over and over. Right? And in hockey, what else are we teaching? If every year basketball changes, who wants to be a part of it? Or hockey completely, okay, this year we're going to learn how to throw the puck. What? That's dumb. It's skating forward, backward, passing the puck, skating side to side, receiving the puck, taking a shot, there, blocking the goal, done. Those are what we need to learn. And we learn it every year at a deeper level. The same thing over and over and over at a deeper level. And so having taught ninth graders, and some come in having left in second grade and they come back for confirmation in ninth grade, and they're just so, they need so much more help to catch up, because it is the same thing, but they haven't gone deeper. And all the other kids have gone deeper. And so we have this 50-50 mix, and it's not impossible, but I have to catch them up. And so this idea of pulling them out and putting them back in, no, it's a commitment. Go all in. What does it hurt? Go all in. And well, it's boring. My kid finds it boring. Do they like passing exercises in hockey? Boring. I am telling you, cleaning the horse stalls. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really good at it, by the way. But it's not the fun. That is not the glamorous part. I did not win a single award for cleaning a horse stall, but I cleaned the stalls every day. We had to pick them, and then we'd super clean them usually once a week. We pick out the junk, right? And feeding your horse at whatever time in the morning before school, I'm not into it. But I had to do it, right? And this, of course, there's parts that's boring. The drilling, the over and overness.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get to the deep, beautiful part, and don't miss that part. There you go.
I love that. You know, I was in adoration today, and I go sometimes so filled with like all these ideas of things I'm going to do. But today I was like, you know what? I'm going to actually just sit with the scriptures.
Yeah.
And just when I give myself that time to sit with his word and read them again, you know, sometimes I think, oh, I've read this a million times. But always, you know, and it made me think of the drill. I just had underneath us saying the Catholic catechetical drill, and which I'm not sure I spelled catechetical right, but that's okay. That the practice, every time we read it, something new comes, and we get more and more, we get deeper and deeper into the meaning. We get more skilled at reading. We get more skilled at hearing God's voice. Like for our fall study, we're doing reading between the signs. And part of what we're going to be doing is building our ears to hear, our heart, the ears of our heart, our soul, to hear God speak to us.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from the drill, exactly what you're saying, practicing and being present in our practice and doing the dirty work.
Even the wipeouts are lessons to us.
Yeah.
Right? I was at confession this morning for good reason, right? I never have had a priest say, oh, heck, you probably don't need to come in anymore. You're fantastic. No, it's never happened. And that even the falls are a lesson to us. Yeah. I'm glad I can be home. I'm so grateful for the sacraments. Yeah. And after my falls have been forgiven, I'm even grateful in a way for those, because God makes them new. Right? He can use them as a lesson. He can use them as the lesson just to me, maybe to my kids, maybe to the world. Who knows, right? And it's a great gift.
It is a great gift. You are a great gift, but clearly the gift of time we haven't been given, because we are at the end of our hour. Alyssa, would you like to close us in prayer this evening? Thank you.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Well, as we enter Mary's Assumption here, we are at the vigil, and it's tomorrow, Holy Day of Obligation, ladies. To ask Mary to come with us on the journey. I mean, there's the ultimate mom, right? And her fiat, even though tomorrow is the Assumption, it all started with her fiat. And her yes to God, even before she said yes to the incarnation, of course, she says yes to God in all the little things. She was sinless, and her fiat, and that's the place, the building spot is the yes. And so I would ask Mary to help us in our yes. Mary, who had an uncanny ability to be fearless. Mary who never flinched. Come, be with us. Assist us in our fiat. Help us, show us, teach us to have an uncanny ability to be fearless. And you never flinched. Jesus never flinched. Be with us to give us the strength to never flinch in the face of Christ. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Yay!
That was beautiful. Thank you, Alyssa.
Thanks.
And we will see you next week for session 6. Why you and others. I look forward to it. And I also look forward to our Camino talk.
Camino. Fantastic.
All right. Thank you. Thanks to everybody who came to hang out with us.
Great.
As soon as I figure out how to get us out, we'll be gone.
We'll be gone all night.
God bless.
Bye-bye.